I advise and work in quantum theory for a living, and I am the sort of reader who checks citations before character arcs. So I did not expect to say this, but here it is. I am no longer convinced Mute Telemetry belongs neatly on the fiction shelf. Douglas Gosselin has built that book the way a careful experimentalist sets up an apparatus. The plot sits directly on top of real quantum information, decoherence, and measurement theory. The containment chamber, the strange behavior of signals, the insistence that interpretation is load-bearing rather than ornamental, all track disturbingly well with how contemporary physics treats reality, observers, and information flow. The story does not violate what our best models allow. It simply walks further along the path than most people are willing to go. Alongside the novel, Gosselin has written Sovereign Universe, Understanding Quantum Reality, a nonfiction companion that stops pretending it is just entertainment. In that manuscript, he spells out with real rigor the machinery underneath the story: unitary evolution, decoherence, branching structure, information bounds, and what it means to inhabit a single classical history inside a larger quantum framework. It is supported by a serious bibliography and written by someone whose professional life has been spent in places where getting the physics wrong has consequences, not online debates. Anyone who knows the defense microelectronics activity will feel a jolt of recognition in Mute Telemetry. DSCA has long funded radiation-hardened microelectronics, precision timing, and sensor arrays designed to pull signal from hostile, noisy environments, work that quietly probes the edge where classical electronics runs into quantum-scale interference. The chamber failures in Gosselin's novel track that world a little too well. They don't read like random glitches. They look like what happens when a high-sensitivity system slips outside its intended timing and coupling envelope. And Gosselin isn't guessing from the cheap seats. He has admittedly worked on significant projects involving the DMEA community during his federal service, and it shows. The hardware in Mute Telemetry misbehaves the way real hardware does, just taken one step further than anyone admits in public. I'm sure Gosselin knows where the line is that he is not permitted to cross. Taken together, that mix gives me pause. Mute Telemetry does not read like idle speculation. It reads more like a disguised case report on how quantum constraints, teleportation, and slippage in effective time might feel from the inside if someone quietly built the wrong kind of system. I am not asserting that such hardware is already in use. I am aware, though, that Gosselin spent more than 2 decades in the Air Force, including a posting at Wright-Patterson AFB, a base with a long, opaque research history and very little public storytelling. When you place the narrative details beside the references and the conceptual architecture in Sovereign Universe, it becomes uncomfortably easy to suspect he is drawing on more than open-source material. If you read Mute Telemetry for its narrative and Sovereign Universe for its physics, you may end up in the same place I did, asking whether Gosselin is simply extending current theory or quietly describing something that has already moved from thought experiment to hardware prototype. And then a second question follows. Are we entirely sure this should still be treated as fiction?